I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 167, External Validation. I used to think of myself as the wife of a porn addict, but I do not think of myself that way anymore, and you don't have to either. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you can stop living your life around your husband's pornography addiction. I am going to teach you how to stop being the victim and how to conquer his pornography addiction, even if he never does. I'm Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach, and I am a member of the LDS faith and the wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the Porn Addict's Wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you? I hope you guys are having a great day and a great week. I'm getting ready to go on vacation. My family and I are going on a cruise to Alaska, and we have actually done this cruise before. We did it 4 years ago. And not only am I super excited, I'm excited for many reasons. We're going with all of my siblings and my parents. There's going to be 42 of us on this cruise. I'm very excited about it. And I'm excited to see all my family. I'm excited to go to Alaska. I am thrilled to go have it be 65 degrees. I am loving the summer here in North Carolina. I'm especially loving it because my sister got a pool, and I have been earning my annual membership fee to her pool by helping her do lots of yard work. And it has been amazing, but it's very hot, and I'm really excited for it to be 65 degrees. 65 degrees is kind of like my dream weather. So I am thrilled to be getting out of the heat and going to Alaska. And I'm also really excited to be doing this cruise now rather than doing it 4 years ago. 4 years ago, it was amazing, but I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, and then 4, 6, and 7-year-olds. And this year, my littlest is 5, which is crazy, and which means it'll be so much easier to go whale watching when I don't have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old that are, not so interested in the whale watching. So I am super excited, and we are just getting everything ready to go. I'm recording this a couple of days early. Can you guys even imagine I'm recording this early? And I'm sitting in my brand new office chair. I got sucked into Amazon Prime Day. Did you guys know that was last week? I did. And I bought myself a new office chair, you guys. It is amazing. And my husband thinks it's the ugliest thing that he's seen ever. And I sat in it and I just started laughing hysterically because it feels like a cloud. Rob got in it and he said it feels like first class. And I said, I think it's what you think first class feels like, because I don't think he's ever actually flown first class. He did once. On our honeymoon, we flew and somehow got upgraded to first class. And so he and I have both flown first class once. So maybe this is what we think first class feels like. It's amazing. Anyway, I am so excited to be talking to you guys today. And today I want to talk to you guys about external validation. This is something that's come up quite a bit. And so I wanted to bring it up on the podcast because external validation is one of those things that we all kind of really like. We like external validation. We like to think that the praise of other people or the things that are outside of us, they're really nice to hear. And I want you guys to know that. As I talk about it today, I'm going to totally debunk external validation. But what I want you to know is that, yes, external validation feels really good. Nobody is disputing that. But I want to talk about why it feels good and why we want it and what the big lie is about it, okay? So that you can catch whether or not you are seeking external validation or relying on external validation as a source for internal validation, okay? So I'm going to go into that today. First of all, let's define it. What is validation? If you go to Google, validation is the recognition or affirmation that a person or their feelings or opinions, okay, so the person or their thoughts and feelings are valid or worthwhile, okay? So validating something means you are recognizing or affirming that you or your thoughts or your feelings are valid or worthwhile, okay? That's what validation is. Now, often what we want is someone else to validate our feelings and our thoughts. 100 years ago, I did a podcast. I think it's like podcast episode, I think it's in the first 10 podcasts that I did. Maybe it's number 3. I don't even know. It's called Your Feelings Are Valid. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is we don't validate our own thoughts and feelings, right? We tell the story in our mind with our thoughts in order to validate our feelings, and then we want other people to validate them as well. Okay? This is why we go to Facebook groups, right? If you go to betrayal trauma Facebook groups, this is the number one thing that I see in there is the need for external validation. This is why you call up your girlfriend and you vent about whatever it is that your husband did, or your kids, or your boss, or whatever it is, or your mailman, what they did, and your girlfriend says, ugh, that's the worst. I'm totally on your side. We want external validation for the way that we are thinking and feeling. We want someone else to agree with us because we don't want to think that we're wrong. We want to think that we're right, and we want someone else to agree so that it can reaffirm, right? So that it can affirm that our thoughts, our feelings are worthwhile and valid, that we are correct. Because again, our brain likes to be right. Our brain thinks that us being right means that that's how we're going to survive. So it always wants to be right. So it's always seeking validation from outside of us. Okay? We want someone else to validate the way that we're thinking and the way that we're feeling. And it feels really good when we get that. But the only way that external validation works, the only way that validation from another source works is if you already believe what you're thinking and feeling. You guys with me? No amount of external validation can make you believe in yourself or your thoughts or your feelings. It's nice to hear, but it doesn't work unless you validate it yourself. Okay? And if you validate it yourself, then there is no need for external validation. There is no need for anyone or anything outside of you to validate it because you've already validated it internally. You guys with me? Let me give you an example. This came up on a coaching call this week. I had a client who brought up this, she was like, oh my gosh, my in-laws are causing so much drama. And then she proceeded to tell me about what was happening. And she said, and I thought I was in the right. So I called my mother-in-law and I was explaining it to her and she agreed with me. And then I called my brother and he agreed with me. And I said, pause, which is something I do to my clients a lot when they're in their story, right? First of all, she's told the whole story and created all of these thoughts to validate how she's feeling, but then it didn't resonate. Why? Because she didn't believe it. She wasn't internally validating how she was feeling. She was trying to convince herself that the way that she was feeling was fine and that she was okay to feel the way that she was feeling and that she had no reason to feel guilty. And so then she was also seeking external validation through her mother-in-law and through her brother. She was going to other sources. But ladies, it doesn't matter how many sources you go to validate yourself. If you don't believe it internally, it doesn't resonate. Okay, let's go through some examples because it matters who you ask, right? Your brain will discount and dismiss people's validation. We do this all the time, right? So if you, for example, if you are concerned about, if you're not sure how an outfit looks, right? And you ask your husband, you're like, does this look okay? Does this match? I do this all the time. I'm like, Rob, which shoes should I wear with this outfit? And he'll tell me, and I kind of discount it a lot of times. Not that he's not the awesome at it, but he'll give me his opinion and my brain's like, well, what does he know? Right? My brain will discount his validation and I will instead want to call my twin sister or I'll FaceTime her and say, okay, are these shoes okay to wear with this outfit? Because I think that they are, but I'm not 100% sure. Rob says yes, but I don't know that he's right. Okay. And I will go to her because my brain values her validation more than it values Rob's on which shoes match my outfit better. Okay. And this is what we do in any situation. When you are seeking external validation, it very much matters who you are seeking it from. So I want you guys to ask this. Where in your life do you seek external validation? Do you seek it from your husband about the way that you look? Do you seek it from your mom about the way that you parent? Most of the time where I see this in my clients most often is my clients are seeking validation, number one, for how they feel in relation to their husband's pornography problem. And number two, how they feel sexually and physically about themselves, in their physical insecurities, in their sexual insecurities, and all that comes with that with their husband watching pornography. And they seek validation for feeling positive about themselves through their husband, right? They want him to say, I think you're beautiful. They want him to say, I think you're attractive. They want him to do or say certain things in order to validate that they can feel good and positive about themselves. You guys with me on this? Okay. So I want you to think about this for just a minute. Where do you struggle with this? And then I want you to, so identify that. Where do you seek external validation? And then, and maybe here's another place that I see this is, and you guys are getting this all rapid fire today. Sorry, I'm just so excited about this topic. Another place that I see this so often with my clients is as a mom, so many moms seek external validation from their children. They want their kids to think that they're a good mom. They want to think they're a good mom, and they think that the way that they know that is based on if their kids tell it to them, or if their kids talk to them, or if their kids, whatever, do X, Y, and Z. And if they do X, Y, and Z to them, or they tell them they're doing a good job as a parent, then that means they are doing a good job as a parent. Right? Do you guys see what I'm saying? So I want you to just take a moment. You can even press pause on this podcast so you can stop listening to my voice for half a second and hear yourself think, where do you need external validation? Okay. And then I want you to ask this question. What do you want validation for? Okay. What are you looking for validation for? Are you looking for validation on how pretty you are? Are you looking for validation on how sexy you are? What are you looking for validation that you're not crazy, that it's okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling? And then, who do you want it from? Who do you want validation from? Who is the source that you go to? When I want validation on an outfit, I go to my twin sister. Who do you go to validation for? Do you go to social media? Do you go to your mom? Do you go to your girlfriend? Do you go to your husband? Who do you seek validation from, and why? Okay? So for example, again, if you want validation for being a good mom, maybe you want it from your kids. Why? Because you think that your kids are going to be the source of information. They're going to be the ones to judge whether or not you're being a good mom. The way that they turn out, whether or not they get good grades, whether or not they're behaving in school. That's the validation to determine whether or not I'm a good mom. You guys see this? It's looking externally for proof or evidence to reaffirm a belief or a thought that I have about myself. However, it doesn't matter how much external validation you receive. If you don't believe it, it will not resonate. Your brain will dismiss it. Okay? It doesn't matter if I come into your home right now, into your little earbuds, and I say, you are an amazing mom, you're an amazing wife, you're beautiful and sexy and gorgeous. It doesn't matter how much I externally validate you. If you don't believe it, it's not going to resonate. You might think it feels nice to hear it, totally, but it doesn't have anything to anchor to. Your brain will dismiss it. Yeah, well, if she really knew me. Yeah, well, it's just because she can't see the 20 pounds that I've gained since COVID. Yeah, well, if she knew what my husband was doing, then she would agree that I'm a mess and that I'm not attractive and I'm not sexy. If she just knew the things my husband was saying, then she would agree with him. If you don't believe it yourself, no amount of external validation is going to make you believe it. And if social media has taught us nothing else, then this is what it is that it doesn't matter how many likes you get on your photo. It doesn't matter how many posts you make or how many stories people follow or how many comments get left on your video. None of that is going to make you feel better about yourself. In fact, it often makes you feel worse. If you are constantly seeking external validation for something that you do not believe, that is never going to work. In fact, there is no such thing as external validation. Because if you keep receiving external validation, if it has nothing to validate, if there's nothing inside of you that it can validate or connect with, then it gets dismissed by your brain. You cannot receive external validation if you do not have internal validation first. And if you already have internal validation, if you already believe it within yourself, if you are the source of your own validation, then you don't need external validation. It doesn't mean that it's not nice to hear. It's still nice to hear. It's still nice when someone says, wow, your outfit is amazing. I love those shoes, go super well. I say thanks, but I don't need it. It's still nice to hear, but I don't need it in order to validate, oh, I'm so glad because I wasn't sure about this outfit and now I feel like it's put together. You guys with me on this? If I believe that I'm a good mom, if I'm my own source of validation, then I don't need my kids' good grades in order to prove it to me. I don't need my kids' good behavior in public to prove it to me. I can just believe that I'm a good mom, even if they don't behave well in public, even if they don't get good grades on a test. I can still believe that I'm a good mom. I get to believe that. You get to choose to believe whatever it is that you want about yourself. When you are holding negative self-beliefs, then it doesn't matter how many times your husband says you're attractive. It doesn't matter how many times he sleeps with you. It doesn't matter how much he is or isn't watching porn. It is not going to validate you. It's not going to validate how you feel because you have to come up with that yourself. So if you want validation for your body and you want your husband to be the source of it, so that you know that you can feel like you're attractive and sexy, then you're constantly going to turning to your husband in order to make you feel a certain way. And that's never going to work because your husband can't make you feel anything. Your husband has no control over your feelings. So he can externally validate you all you want, but it is never going to resonate with you unless you conquer that negative self-belief, that lack of validation that's inside of you. You guys with me? I'm so passionate about this today because this is something that I coached on today. We did a free coaching call this week, and I had a client that was talking about or this was just a guest, right? This was just a listener. She's not a client yet. And she was talking about her husband, and she was talking about she doesn't even know that he's watching pornography. She has no concrete evidence that he is. She just thinks that he is because he's being grumpy. So he's being grumpy, and she's like, oh, I'm just assuming. I just know that he's watching porn because when he's watching porn, he gets really grumpy. So my brain just knows that that's what's happening. She doesn't even have any concrete proof. She hasn't talked to him. She hasn't seen any evidence. All she has is my husband's being grumpy, and her brain automatically, red flag, that must mean he's watching porn. Okay? And what I showed her, what we were able to connect with, is that she has a negative self-belief. And as long as she has this negative self-belief, which in her brain, this negative self-belief is that I'm right here, there must be something wrong with me. My husband is rejecting me and watching porn. She's making him watching porn mean something about her. You guys see this? She has a negative self-belief. And as long as that negative self-belief is there, she's constantly going to be finding evidence for it. So it wouldn't even matter if her husband came to her today and said, I'm not watching porn. I haven't for 15 years. It wouldn't matter because that negative self-belief is the thing that's anchored inside of her. So no amount of external validation that everything's fine and that he loves her and he's attracted to her and he wants to be with her and she's the person that he wants, none of that is going to validate it because she has nothing to validate. Because she has a negative self-belief that is stuck there. And until she works through that, that will always be the thing that her brain reaffirms. You guys with me on this? So it doesn't matter how much weight you lose or how many likes you get on your picture on Instagram or how many comments you get from your girlfriends about how amazing you look. If you are seeking a specific source of your validation, if you're like, well, none of that really matters because they don't know. I want my husband to tell me because he's the one that's turning from me to pornography. So he's the one that I want my validation from. It doesn't matter if he tells you till he's blue in the face that he loves you, he's attracted to you, and he finds you sexy and he wants to be with you. It doesn't matter how much he says that. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's because you are blocking it, because you don't have the internal validation to receive it. And so he can keep telling you all he wants. It's never going to land because there's a negative self-belief that you have that is blocking that external validation. So I want you guys to really take a look at this. Where are you seeking external validation in your life? And I want you to question, what if you didn't need it? What if instead of looking for external validation in that area, what if instead you became your own source of validation? What if you figured out what that negative self-belief was? What if you found out what was blocking all of that external validation? What if you found out what was driving the need for the external validation and you were able to solve it yourself? This is what I talk about in my book, my whole book. If you guys want to, you can go get it on Amazon, okay? My whole book, The Not Enough Wife. The subtitle of that is Why We Look Outside Ourselves and How to Stop. This is what I'm talking about in that book. Why we keep going to external sources for an internal problem. Our internal problem is our negative self-beliefs, the things that we aren't validating ourselves. The beliefs that we have that we're not good enough because we're not validating that we are. The belief that we're not good enough as a wife, not sexy enough, not attractive enough, not beautiful enough. And we have all of this evidence outside of us that it's true. Our clothes are too small. We're not the right size. Our husband is watching porn. Our kids are a mess. Our house is dirty. The dishes aren't done. We're not making enough money. Whatever it is, we have all of this evidence that we're not enough. And the only reason all of that lands is because that's what we are validating. So what I want to offer instead is that you become your own source of validation. Find out what's blocking you. Find out what's preventing you from believing all of that external validation. Ask yourself, where am I seeking validation? Who am I seeking validation from and why? And once we uncover that, then we'll be able to start somewhere. We'll be able to work through and unearth the things that are preventing you, and then you don't need any of it. Again, not that it's not nice to hear, because external validation is always amazing, but it doesn't distract you. It doesn't detract the value that you have from within, because you believe you are worthwhile and valid. You validate your own thoughts, your own self, and your own emotions. And when you can do that, that is when you take full responsibility for yourself. And that's when you can let go of responsibility for everyone else. That's when you can stop trying to change other people's behavior, change the way other people think about you. That's when you can stop trying to emotionally manipulate those around you, even though that's not what we think about. We think about it in other ways. This is when you can actually show up as your true self, and it's so much more freeing, because this is when you can start living your life from a place of excitement that it's you. You don't need to respond in a way that you think other people will validate. Instead, you can have that validation internally, and then you get to show up as yourself. And that is what you deserve in life. You deserve to live a life that's truly yours, where you truly get to be you. And that's what I want to offer you today. I love you ladies so much. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. All right, ladies, it's time to rise up and take charge of your healing, and I have the best way for you to do it. I have created a lifetime access coaching program that I have designed specifically for you and exactly what you're going through right now. This is where I help you develop a personal mastery of all the tools that you're learning here on the podcast in order for you to create a permanent change. Go to my website, jolenewind.com. You will find all the information there, and you can sign up today, and we will start going forward. I can't wait to see you there.